Hey there, angry faithful. I just wanted to drop in, bend your ear a little bit, get your attention. So if you're not listening, drop what you're doing and pay attention to me because I'm here to inform you that not only can you get your daily, maybe if you're binging it, I'm not sure, that's entirely up to you, but you can multiply your doses of angry me fuckery by paying attention to all of the platforms upon which you can find either the dulcet tones of my voice and David's voice or my pretty face and David's not so pretty face. Anyways, digressing, we not only on we are on YouTube, we are on Spotify, we're on Rumble, we're on Google, Apple Podcast. We have a TikTok page. We're on Twitter, Instagram, and of course Facebook. So if you find yourself fuckery deprived, curl up with a nice hot mug of shut the fuck up and just listen. Open those ear holes and be prepared to be cream pied like it's the first time. Thanks for listening.
Welcome, Angry Faithful. Today on Psychos and Sociopaths, we're going to go over part two by the Nanjing Massacre. And Johnny isn't with us. He's had some family problems. He was going to be with us today, but life happens. So give Johnny our best wishes and prayers and everything. It's nothing that big. It's something he has to do. But we are going to get back onto the show. Now, what we're going to go over right now are the war crimes and tribunals. Shortly after the surrender of Japan, the primary officer in charge of Japanese troops in Nanjing were put on trial. General Matsui was indicated before the International Military Tribunal for Far East for deliberation and recklessness. Deliberaties? Oh man, I am sorry. Going hot and then going soft.
Deliberately
and recklessly ignoring the legal duty to take acquitted. Words not good for me right now. That's the reason why I'm drinking a shit ton of coffee. Let's see here.
Adequate
steps. I knew that word, but I just couldn't do it. I'm sorry, folks. Adequate steps to secure the observed and prevent breaches of the Hugh Convention. Hassan Tan, the Lieutenant General of the 6th Division of Imperial Japanese Army in Nanjing. And by the way, if I butcher these things, you can comment on that and tell me how much of a horrible person we're not getting like super. These words and names, I am not a proficient with. I can get Russian names, I can get French names, I can get, but Asian names I really can't do. I can do Middle Eastern names pretty easy. Asian names I really can't. But other Japanese military leaders in charge at the time of the Nanjing Massacre were not tried. Prince Kangin Ku. We're gonna do the speak and spell on this one because
Canon Kodohito,
the chief of staff of the Imperial Japanese Army during the massacre, had died before the end of the World War in May 1945. Prince Asaka, is it Ahsoka? Asaka was granted immunity because his status of a member of the imperial family. Oh, you piece of shit! I'm sorry. He's a piece of shit. He took it. He fucked. Goddamn. I hate people that are in power and everything. They get immunity over stuff they shouldn't. Like that whole fucking Jeffrey Epstein. We need the damn fucking black books and shit. Was granted immunity because of his superior status. And the aide to the prince, Isumu
Izamucho.
Azamu Cho, the aide to the Prince of Saka, and whom some historical believed issued the kill all captives memo, had committed suicide during the Battle of Okinawa. Oh, you cheap pussy. I did terrible things. I'm going to have to kill myself. Well, actually, in their cult, yeah, I totally forgot about that. In their culture, surrender and everything like that, they do. What is it called? Hold on, I have to use my I have to use my phone because uh, I think it's called Harry Carey. Sorry, folks. I am really Seppuki. Seppuka. Puka. Anyways, Seppuka. It's I can read you the thing right there. Sometimes referred to as Harry Carey. I knew that. Aha. Is a form of Japanese ritual suicide by disembowelment. Is oh wow. But anyways, it's ritualistic and it is basically one of those things that if they dishonor their superiors, that's how they get their honor back. Okay. On May 1st, 1946, Scalp, a supreme commander for the Allied powers, was the title of held by General Douglas MacArthur during the United States lead Allied occupation of Japan. Officials interrogated Prince Osaka. I'm probably butchering that even Osaka. Osaki. I'm butchering it again.
Osaka.
Yeah, Osaka. I'm probably butchering it because my Texas language. Uh, my Texas accent sometimes it just goes on through. Who was the ranking officer in the city at the height of the atrocities? About his involvement in the Nanjing massacre, the disposition was submitted to the National Prosecution Section of Tokyo Tribunal. Osaka denied the existence of any massacre and claimed never to have received complaints about any about the conduct of the troops. The prosecutors began the Nanjing phase of its case in July 1946. Robert O. Wilson, a surgeon and member of the National Committee for Nanjing Safety Zone, took the witness stand first. Hold on. Other pieces of evidence were submitted by to the tribunal was Harold Trimpoli's telegram regarding the Nanjing massacre, which had been intercepted and decoded by the Americans on January 17th, 1938. One of the books by
Shu.
It's HSU. I messed that up completely in my head. Shu documented that Nanjing safety zone was also abducted into court. The entry for the same day and Matsui
Masui.
diary read, I can only feel sadness and responsibility today, which has been overwhelmingly piercing my heart. This is caused by the army's misbehavior after the fall of Nanjing and failure to process with the anonymous government and the political plans. God. Matsu's asserted that he had never ordered the execution of Chinese POWs. He further argued that he had directly, let's bring this up bigger. He further argued that he had directed his army's divisions commanders to discipline their troops for criminal acts and was responsible for their failure to carry out his directives. At trial, Matsui went out of his way to protect Princess Soki. Well, anyways, the prince by shifting blame to lower ranked division commanders. And
Koki Hiroda.
Koki Haroda, who had been the foreign minister when Japan conquered Nanjing, was convicted of practicing in the formation or execution of a common plan or conspiracy. Court 1 waged a war of aggression and a war in violation of international laws, treaties, agreements, and associations. Social ran. Oh, man, my dyslexia's kicking high gear right now. I'm sorry, folks.
Assurances.
Assurances against the Republic of China, count 27 and count 55. Matsui was convicted by a majority of the judges at the Tokyo Tribunal, who ruled that he bore ultimate responsibility for the orgy of crimes at Nanjing because he did nothing effective to liberate these horrors. Organized and wholesale murder of male citizens was conducted with the apparent sanction of the commanders on the pretext that Japanese soldiers had removed their uniforms or were mingling in the population. Groups of Chinese civilians were formed, bond with their hands behind their back, and marched outside of the walls of the city, where they were killed in groups by machine gun fire and bayonets from judgment of International Military Tribunal. So they basically what they ended up doing is any male, is a uniform or not, was marched out of the city and everybody was shot because in their defense, they couldn't figure out who were the who was the Chinese army and who wasn't the Chinese army. But the sentencing on this on November 12th, 1948, Matsui and Horitoa, I bet that was right. Horitoa. I'm sorry, folks. Hiroda, along with 5 other convicted CA war criminals, were sentenced to death by hanging. 18 others received lesser sentences. The death sentence imposed by Harutoa, sorry, a 6-5 decision by the 11 judges shocked the general public and prompted a petition on his behalf, which soon gathered over 300,000 signatures, but did not succeed in commuting the minister's sentences. All of them were hanged on December 23rd, 1948. General Tanning was sentenced to death by Nanjing Nanjing Crimes Tribunal and was executed in China on 26th of April 1947. According to the historians, Taroko, oh God,
Takushi Kasahara.
Kasahara, the evidence used to convince Tanine was not convincing. Katsuhara said that if there was a full investigation of the massacre, many other high-ranking authorities, which included high-ranking level commanders, army leaders, and the Emperor Hayatosa. Oh man, I know that name, and I just fucked it up. Oh come on,
Hirohito.
Hirohito. And then I lost my spot. There we go. No, I really lost my spot. Oh man. Okay. Oh, all right. There we go. However, okay, could have been implicated. Hirohito could have been implicated in the crimes of the Nanjing Massacre. In 1985, the Nanjing Massacre Memorial Hall was built by Nanjing multiple governments. A sensible government in remembrance of the victims and to raise awareness of the Nanjing Massacre is located near a site where thousands of bodies were buried, called a pit of 10,000 corpses. Oh, I want to know the Chinese word for that.
Wan Ran Kang.
Ron Ren King. As of December 2016, there are a total of 10,615 Nanjing Massacre victims' names inscribed on the memorial wall. In 1995, Daniel Kwan held a photo exhibit in Los Angeles titled The Forgotten Holocaust. In 2005, John Rabe, man, I butchered his name last time. I'm butchering the name this time.
Rabe.
Rabe, okay. Formed a resistance in Nanjing was motivated.
Renovated.
Renovated and now encompasses the John Rabe's International Safety Zone Memorial Hall, which opened in 2006. On December 13, 2009, both Chinese and Japanese monks held a religious ceremony to mourn Chinese citizens killed by the invading Japanese troops. On December 13th, 2014, China held its first Nanjing Massacre Memorial Day. On October 9th, 2015, documents of the Nanjing Massacre have been listed as United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, or UNESCO, Memory of the World Registry. Controversy on this. Cold War before China and Japan have both acknowledged the occurrence of wartime atrocities. Despite over the historical portrayal of these events continue to cause tension between Japan on one side and China and the other Eastern Asian countries on the other side. Before 1970, China did God, relevant.
Relatively.
China did relatively little to draw attention to the Nanjing Massacre. In her book, Rape of Nanjing, Icarus Chang asserted that the policies of the Cold War encouraged Chairman Mao to stay relatively silent about the Nanjing in order to keep the trade relationship with Japan. Zhang Chang and John Hallinan, Barria Mayo claims Mayo never made any commitment either contemporaneous. That's how it's pronounced.
Contemporaneously.
Yeah, I got it right. Contemporaneously or later in his life about the massacre, but did frankly remark with enduring bitterness about the political struggle between himself and Wang Ming, which also occurred in December 1937. Mm. The debate concerning the massacre took place mainly in 1970s. During this time, the Chinese government statement about the event were attacked by the Chinese because they were said to rely too heavily on personal testimonies and atrocity evidence.
Aspersions.
Aspersions were cast regarding the atrocities and accuracy of the brutal records and photography photographers' presence in Tokyo War Crimes Court, which the Japanese government claimed were fabricated by the Chinese government, artificially manipulating and incorrectly attribute to the Nanjing Massacre. During the 1970s, Katsui Honda wrote a series of articles for
Asahi Shimbun.
Asahi Shimbun on the war crimes committed by the Japanese soldiers during World War II, such as the Nanjing Massacre. The publication of these articles triggered a vehement response by Japanese right wingers regarding the Japanese treatment of war crimes. In response, Shinento Yamamoto and Akira Suzaki wrote two conversational yet influential articles which spoke the Japanese national movement. In 1984, in an attempt to refute the allegations of war crimes in Nanjing, the Japanese Army Veterans Association interviewed former Japanese soldiers who had served in Nanjing area from 1937 to 1938. Instead of refilling the allegations, the interview veteran confirmed that a massacre had taken place and openly described and admitted to taking part in the atrocities. The result of the severity were published in the association magazine Kyoto in 1985 along the administration and apologized that read, however, this severity of war or special circumstances of war psychology, we just lost words faced with the mass illegal killing. As those who are related to the pre-war military, we simply apologize deeply to the people of China. It was truly a regrettable act of barbarity. Now, on August 15th, 1995, the 50th anniversary of surrender of Japan, the Japanese Prime Minister
Tomiichi Murayama.
Tomi Miri Miriyama. Miriyama. Tomi Moriyama. Gave the first formal apologies for Japan's actions during the war. He offered his apologies to all survivors and to the relatives and friends of the victims. That day, the prime minister and the Japanese emperor Hirokuri
Akihito.
Akihito pronounced statements of mourning at Tokyo's. Wow, come on, guys, stop using Asian words. Just use something that I can actually talk about. There we go.
Nippon Budokan.
Nippon Kubuken. Iris Chang, author of The Raping of Nanjing, criticized Maruyama for not providing the written apology that had been expected. She said that the people of China do not believe that an unequivocal and sincere apology has ever been made by Japan to China, and that a written apology from Japan would send a better message to the international community. I mean, if you apologize, but not. Some people want it in writing. I know it's kind of like really sad for me to say that, but that's how I feel sometimes on certain. I guess I'm a different breed. A faction of Japanese politicians were who were unapologetic to the deaths in Nanjing have triggered a recording important tension in Sino-Japanese relations. In May 1994, Justice Minister Nagano called the Nanjing massacre a fabrication. Oh, wow. Now we got people here that says the Holocaust is not real, which is stupid. Holocaust is real. On February 20th, 2012, Karamara, mayor of Nauragaya, told a visiting delegation from Nanjing that the massacre probably never happened. 2 days later, he defended his remarks, saying, "Ever since I was a national diet representative, I have said repeatedly that there is no Nanjing massacre that resulted in murders of several 100,000 of people." Gee. On February 24th, 2012, Tokyo Governor man, there's a lot of deniers on this.
Shintaro Ishihara.
Shinto Hirashara denies Nanjing massacre. He alleged it would have been impossible to kill so many people in such a short period of time. It was 6 weeks. He alleges a death toll of 10,000. Technically, United States did 2 massacres in 2 days. So we dropped 2 bombs. Not hating Japan. I'm just saying we did that. On February 3rd, 1920, February 3rd, 2014, Nakiri Harataka, a member of the Board of Governors of Japan Publicly Broadcast Company, NHK, which stands for Japanese NHK is it's Japanese for Japanese, whatever. Was quoted as saying the massacre never occurred. He said that there was isolated incidents of brutality, but no widespread atrocities, and criticized the Tokyo trials figures of 200,000. Good Lord. Now there is Holocaust deniers for the Jewish Holocaust or the Nazi Holocaust that the Nazis caused and everything like that. And a bunch of other things. People deny. I mean, there's fucking stupid ass people that deny that the earth is round. Now, saying that, they're to be in a political office to deny that stuff, you shouldn't even be in political office. because of the basic fact of you are basically saying that you deny history. Denying history, you're more or less going to repeat it. And I hope to God we don't repeat such atrocities that happened in World War II, any kind of the world wars, any kind of war, really. But the memory now, the legacy of this, the memory of the Nanjing massacre has been pointed to connect in Shono Japanese relations and sincerely. Did I just go over that? No. No, I went over it, but okay. Anyways, uh Yorishada asserted that Nanjing has figured in the attempt of all three nations, China, Japan, and the United States, to preserve and refine national and ethnic pride and identity, assuming different kinds of syndication based on each country's internal and external enemies. Japan on this following on Japan on this. Following the end of World War II, some circles of civil society in Japan reflected on the uh, extents of the massacre and the parpeti- mm, parpit, partition. Oh God, fuck, my dyslexia is just getting up in there and just causing all kinds of foolery.
Participation
of ordinary soldiers. Notably, the novelist Hada Yarishi wrote a novel, Time, in 1953, portraying the massacre from the point of view of the Chinese intellectual watching it happen. This novel has been translated into Chinese and Russian. Other eyewitnesses to the massacre also expressed their opinion in Japanese magazines in 1950 and 1960s, but political shifts shortly eroded the tide of the confessions. In 21st century Japan, the Nanjing massacre touches upon national identity and the notion of pride, honor, and shame. Another word I can't pronounce because it's different. Yoshida argues that Nanjing crystallizes a much larger conflict over what should constitute the ideal perception of the nation. Japan as a nation acknowledges its past and acknowledges and apologizes for its wartime wrongdoings, or stands firm against foreign pressures and teaches Japanese youth about the benevolence and courageous warriors who fought a just war to save Asia from Western aggression. Recognizing the Nanjing massacre as such can be viewed in some circles in Japan as Japan bashing in the case of foreigners, or self-flagellation. Am I saying that right?
Flagellation.
Yeah, flagellation in the case of Japan. The government of Japan believes it cannot deny that the killings of a large number of non-combatants, looting, and other acts by Japanese armies occurred. However, the actual numbers of the victims is hard to determine, according to the government of Japan. In the 2010 Japan China Joint Historical Research Committee meeting, scholars from Japan said a maximum possibility of numbers of the civilian victims of 200,000, which estimated of around 40 to 20,000. The Japanese scholars of the committee maintained that at least 300,000 were killed. The range of the death toll estimated by Japan historians is from tens of thousands and 200,000. Oh, man. basically what they're saying is, yeah, it happened, but y'all's numbers are wrong. Which, without any of the documentations that we had from that incident, even with the little bit of historical facts and everything that we have on hand right now, we really can't determine the actual facts because Japan decided to wipe everything off. But in China's view, the Nanjing massacres have emerged as one fundamental keystone in the construction of modern Chinese national identity. Modern China, including most citizens of the PRC, partly in Taiwan, Hong Kong, and overseas, who will refer to the Nanjing massacre to explain certain stance they hold and ideas they have. This national unifying event holds true to middle school education peasants to the senior government officials alike. The remembrance of the massacre has evolved drastically in China until 1982. Mentioning the massacres was suppressed to China because ideologically the communists would rather promote the
Martyrs.
martyrs of class struggles when then wartime victims, especially when there were no communist heroes or communists in Nanjing when the massacre happened. Oh my God, that's the reason why we can't fuck. Oh God. Okay. This is the reason why I have problems with uh, government officials hiding documents, even in what we're doing today. And you talk about it yourself. I won't elaborate anymore on certain stuff. What they ended up doing is because there was no heroes or someone to idolize in this whole massacre, except for the actual people that fucking helped as much as they possibly could during this massacre, which were foreigners, I guess. That's what they didn't like. They decided, oh, we're going to suppress it for a while until 1982. Good 40, well, 40, yeah, we'll just call it 40 years. They suppressed it for 40 years because, even our country fucking suppresses fucking shit. I'm actually going to go over the Black Friday, the Tulsa riots next week. So there's that. That was suppressed so much that I didn't even realize it fucking happened until like the Watchmen TV series on HBO Max. It's the first time I actually heard of those fucking riots. And I went back and did a little bit of research and how much atrocity fucking people do. Fucking assholes. Yes, I'm calling most humans assholes. But the patriotic education campaign, Massacre was, became a national memory as an episode of century of humiliation prior to the communist founding of the new China. This unorthodox victimhood narrative has become unwinding. Sorry, with the Chinese national identity and is very sensitive to the revisionation, yeah, statements,
Revisionist.
revisionist statements of far right in Japan, which makes the memory of the massacre a recurring point of tension in the Sino-Japanese relations after 1982. I don't know why Australia is on this one, but the dock workers in Australia were horrified by the massacre and refused to load pig iron onto ships heading for Japan, leading to Del Frame dispute in 1938 which was a political industry dispute at Port Kimbala, New South Wales, protesting the export of pig iron. What is pig iron? Pig iron from Australia to Japan during the Second Shinto Japanese War. It became famous for providing the nickname Pig Iron Bob. Okay. I'm curious what is pig iron right now. Sorry. If anybody listens to this and on a constant basis, knows that when I find something I'm actually interested in learning, I go after it like an arrow at a freaking target. Here we go. Crude iron that is directly produced of the blast furnace is refined to produce steel. Okay, wrought iron or iron ore. Okay, it's just they just gave it a fancy name to wrought iron meant for steel. Okay. Now, records on this in December 2007, the PRC government, the People's Republic of China government, published the names of 13,000 people who were killed by Japanese troops in the Nanjing Massacre. According to the Zhenhong news agency, it was most complete records to date. See, this is the reason why we don't have that much records on this. The report consisted of eight volumes of and was released to mark the 75th anniversary of the start of the massacre. It's also listed the Japanese army units that were responsible for each death and states the way in which the victims were killed. Zhang Zhongnong, editor-in-chief of the report, stated that the information collected was based on the combination of Chinese, Japanese, and Western raw material, which is objective and just and is able to stand the trial of history. This report formed part of a 55-volume series about the massacre, the collections of historical material of Nanjing Massacre. Now, that's pretty much it on that. But like I said, no one really knows what fully happened. We have a little bit of stuff that can go out on this massacre. We have two different governmental entities, China and Japan, and technically us, the United States, that because of what happened in Japan after the surrender and the destruction of most of the documentation that ended up happening and everything, it's hard to say what actually happened during that massacre. I mean, look at the last part, 2007, 13,000 of the victims were killed. But all in all, they're saying going from 200,000 from one government agencies to 300,000. So we don't really have that much. The only thing I do know on this is the fact of it did happen. Views of how bad and how horrible it was, depending on what part of the government you're actually in, China, Japan, and a fun fact, Japan doesn't really teach much of the World War II history in Japan, from what I found out. And I found that's from a person that actually lives in Japan. And I'll revisit that later on. But all in all, it really was a travesty. I mean, we could have kept on going. I'm only doing this for an extra 43 minutes. And we could have gone 2 hours on this, but we decided to cut it up into 2 parts only because of the basic fact of we were mentally drained of all the atrocities we actually had to talk about, which is really sad. It just shows that we are actually more human than most people would think of us. But everybody, thank you for listening. Comment, do whatever you can to promote this show. We're going to try to do a campaign to promote this a little bit, maybe do a couple of trailers. We'll see. But love every one of y'all that actually do listen. Great people. I'll talk to you later.